Updating you on a very strong and powerful East Coast storm with a lot of what we've been talking about, hurricane-type characteristics. This isn't a hurricane again, but the characteristics of it are being felt across much of eastern Massachusetts right now, and we've got reports of beach erosion all the way from the New England coast on down into Daytona Beach. New reports on in this hour. All power is out right now on Nantucket Island. We've also got reports of evacuations along the south shore of Long Island, which still continues to possess a lot of questions for us here as meteorologists at the Weather Channel. But I'm sure there'll be a good explanation coming out of this as we go on in time. Flooding on the south shore of Long Island as well. Beach erosion again all the way down the coast. Some very gusty winds continuing. The worst seems to be over at this time, but we have stopped getting reports out of Chatham, Massachusetts, and they had just put out a report that reported a gust of 78 miles an hour a little bit earlier on. But you can see here across much of eastern New England, we are still getting reports into the 30, 40, and 50 mile an hour gust range. Also, in the last couple of hours, we've seen some rain bands move in, and you can see across much of eastern Massachusetts and now out into the ocean, some more rain developing there, and it's actually moving on toward the west. And with this, periods of light to moderate to heavy rain, and I'm sure with the gusty winds, it sure feels like there's a heck of a storm there. We've got some video around Chatham, Massachusetts. Now, this was shot later in the day. We showed you some stuff earlier on, but you can see just how gusty and stormy it looks there along the shoreline. We had a viewer call us earlier saying this is the worst that he has ever seen, and also reports out of the south shore of Boston saying that this is the worst since the blizzard of '78, if not the worst period. So definitely a very strong storm. And the problem with this is, sure, it may be weakening just a little bit, but my goodness, is it going to go away? Let's talk to John Hope. He's our hurricane expert. John, we don't have a hurricane here, but we sure have something that's possessing a lot of the characteristics of it.
Right you are, Jim, and it's not weakening very fast. It's not going to weaken very rapidly. We think it will weaken some overnight. But one thing we'd like to point out as far as this very high surface concerned, that a lot of these waves that are going to be coming down all the way down the east coast have already been generated by these very strong winds we've had here for 2 days. So even when the wind dies down, very large breakers are going to continue to come into the coast. So this isn't over by any means, even though the storm should weaken.
So we're going to see beach erosion from the North Carolina coast on up for the next couple of days?
Yes, we are, and we're going to see it certainly through tonight and into tomorrow. After that, it may begin to subside a little bit, but there's some also, we point out that even though Chatham had this very strong gust of winds, you can see this on the radar now, another batch of very heavy showers coming in, and we wouldn't be surprised to see the wind gusts associated with those almost as strong as they've already had there on Cape Cod.
So, strong storm, more rain, wind through the night, and a lot of beach erosion.
Rain has only been a problem really on Cape Cod. It's extended inland a ways, not very far. I don't think it will inland too far. And then the flooding down there on the south shore of Long Island all the way into Brooklyn has been a little bit of a surprise, I think.
And also an amazing phenomenon around Waltham. The air is so dry all the way up, they've even got reports of sleet.
And this is not characteristic of a hurricane. Usually we have temperatures well into the 70s with a hurricane, and of course with this, we've had some sleet reported.
All right, thank you, John. We'll check back in with you. And folks, if you're thinking about tomorrow's commute, a lot of the airports in this part of the world, and I'm sure also the ferries, will probably not be running, and we'll pass those notes along to you as we get them. Let's go to the Forecast Center now and talk to Keith Westerlich.